Ladies and gentlemen, open your eyes, open your ears, for I speak now not a word of man, but a message echoing through eternity, a whisper from the throne, a cry from the wilderness, a stirring in the heavens. She's waiting for you to reach out. Do you hear it? She, the broken, the bruised, the forgotten. She, the bride, the church, the soul that once danced in the light and now hides in the shadows. She is waiting, not for angels, not for prophets, not for kings, but for you. Yes, you. For too long we have passed her by on the road to Jericho. We've stepped over her tears, silenced her cries, and told ourselves someone else would stop. Someone else would reach. But the mystery of the kingdom is this: you are the one appointed to reach out. The Lord is not asking you if you feel worthy. He already knows you're not, but He has chosen you nonetheless, chosen you to be His hands, His voice, His reaching, and the mystery runs deeper. She is not just a woman in pain. She is Israel longing to see her Messiah. She is the church waiting for revival. She is the prodigal longing for home. She is the world weary with sin, hoping someone still carries the flame, and she, my friend, is waiting. She's waiting at the well, like the woman of Samaria, thirsty for something more than this world has given. She's waiting like Esther behind the veil, hoping someone will stand before the king on her behalf. She's waiting like the widow of Zarephath, with only one meal left, wondering if hope will ever knock on her door. And yet, we remain silent, we scroll, we plan, we build altars of comfort, and forget that we are standing on the edge of eternity. But the Lord says, I have placed her in your path, not another's, yours. Reach out, speak, love, restore, proclaim, for the time is late, and she is still waiting. You don't have to save her, that is God's work. But you do have to reach. Reach with your hand, reach with your word, reach with your love, reach with your presence, for this is not just about her, this is about Him, because when you reach for her, you reach for Him. When you weep for her, you echo the tears of heaven. When you speak life to her, you become the mouthpiece of the Most High. Don't say tomorrow. Tomorrow may not come. Don't say she'll be fine. She may not be. She's waiting for you to reach out, and you have the Spirit of the living God. So rise, move, speak, go, for the King is coming, and His bride is not yet ready, and He is calling you, yes, you, to prepare the way. In the beginning there was a mystery, a divine mystery that was hidden for ages and generations, yet destined to be revealed in the fullness of time. A mystery not of man, but of heaven. It is the mystery of the bride. From Genesis to Revelation, from the Garden of Eden to the gates of New Jerusalem, the Scriptures speak of her, hint at her, sing of her, weep over her, and long for her restoration. She is not just a woman. She is not just a metaphor. She is a prophetic revelation, the symbol of God's deepest longing and covenantal love. The bride is the one for whom the universe was shaped. She is Israel. She is the church. She is every soul called into intimate union with the Creator. In ancient Hebrew wedding customs, the bride was chosen, set apart, sanctified for her bridegroom, and then awaited the day of the wedding. And so it was with Israel, chosen among the nations, set apart, loved with an everlasting love. The prophets called her the wife of Yahweh, the beloved, the unfaithful yet pursued one. Even when she turned away, even when she went after other lovers, the Lord said through Hosea, I will allure her, I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her there. The mystery deepens. The bride is not just Israel. The Apostle Paul reveals the great revelation, that the Gentiles too are grafted in, that from every tribe, tongue, and nation a people is being prepared for the Lord. A bride without spot or wrinkle, a bride made ready for the bridegroom. This is not religion. This is the beating heart of God. This is love in its purest form, sacrificial, covenantal, enduring. Christ gave Himself for the church, not just to cleanse her, not just to forgive her, but to marry her, to bring her into the holy, eternal union that was purposed before time began. And yet, even now, this mystery remains veiled to many. The bride still waits. She waits in longing. She waits in separation. The wedding feast has been announced. The preparations are made, and the invitations have gone out. but many ignore it. Many are distracted. And many don't even know they are the bride. That is the tragedy of the age. We live in a world where the bride walks the streets unaware of her identity. She has forgotten who she is, or worse, she never knew. And so she clings to things that cannot love her back. She sells herself for the approval of man. She runs after false promises, broken cisterns, counterfeit lovers. All the while the bridegroom stands, arms outstretched, waiting, not in judgment, but in love. Waiting not to condemn, but to restore. She is the woman at the well, thirsting but never satisfied. She is the one caught in adultery, shamed and alone. She is Mary Magdalene, delivered from her torment. She is the prodigal daughter, still feeding swine in a far-off land. But she is also the church, asleep in her comfort, unaware of the lateness of the hour. She is the soul next to you in the pew, or the heart on the other side of the screen, or the voice crying silently from behind the mask of strength. She is waiting, and what is she waiting for? She is waiting for the voice of the bridegroom, yes, but also for your voice. Because the mystery of the bride is not just about what God is doing from heaven, it's about what He is calling us to do on earth. The call is not just to believe, but to prepare the way to awaken the bride. To remind her of who she is, to reach out, to speak life, to intercede, to love. The enemy hates the bride because he knows her destiny. He knows that once she remembers who she is, she becomes unstoppable. Once she awakens, she shines with the glory of the one who loves her, and so the darkness works to keep her bound. But we are the ones called to be the light. We are the forerunners, the watchmen, the voice crying out, "Behold, the bridegroom comes." The mystery of the bride is not just history or prophecy. It is now, it is alive, it is calling to you, because she is waiting for you to reach out. There is a silence that is not empty, but full, a silence that speaks louder than thunder, that carries the weight of eternity. It is not the silence of indifference, nor the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of a soul that waits, longs, and hopes. It is the silence of the beloved, and in that silence is a question, not spoken aloud, but burning beneath the surface. Will you come for me? Will you reach out? We live in a world filled with noise. Voices compete for attention, media, opinion, argument, distraction. But beneath it all there is another voice, quieter, deeper, the voice of the one who waits. The beloved is not the loudest in the room. She doesn't demand, she doesn't shout, but she waits. She is the soul who once burned with passion for God, now sitting in the quiet corner of her life, wondering if anyone still sees her. She is the daughter abandoned by her earthly father, aching for the touch of love that doesn't leave. She is the friend who smiles in public but weeps in secret. She is the wounded, the lonely, the ones who once walked with God but now drift in silence, waiting for someone, anyone, to notice the void. And here is the mystery. God has not forgotten her. He never left her. He knows exactly where she is. But He has placed the call upon you to go to her. That's the silence of the beloved. Not because God is absent, but because heaven is waiting for you to move. Just as God waited for Isaiah to say, "Here am I, send me," He waits for you to say, "I will reach for her." We often ask, why doesn't God do something about the suffering, the pain, the lost? But what if the answer is this? He has, but it looks like you. You are the hands He wants to use. You are the voice that can break the silence. You are the heart that can carry His compassion into the places of forgotten sorrow. The beloved is often hidden in plain sight. She walks beside you at work. She sits across from you at dinner. She scrolls through the same feed, searching for something real. She might even live in your own house, but her silence is a wall. She doesn't cry out with words, because somewhere along the way she believed no one would listen. And so she waits, hoping that someone will sense what isn't said, that someone will see through the mask. Jesus knew this silence. When He met the woman at the well, He didn't wait for her to ask for help. He reached first. She was broken, ashamed, carrying years of wounds, and yet he went out of his way to reach her. He spoke to her, he saw her, and in doing so he broke the silence. When he stood before the woman caught in adultery, he didn't scold her. He didn't walk away. He silenced her accusers and then lifted her eyes. That's what happens when love reaches first. But too often we wait. We wait for the hurting to come to us. We wait for the lost to knock on our door. We wait for the beloved to make the first move, but that's not the way of the kingdom. The good shepherd leaves the 99 to go find the one. The father runs to the prodigal before he can even finish his apology. The Spirit of God hovered over the deep before creation ever formed. Heaven always reaches first, so now the question returns, will you? Because she is waiting in the silence, waiting not for a sermon, not for a lecture, but for love. For someone to notice, for someone to say, you are not forgotten, you are not alone, you are seen, you are loved. Sometimes one word of kindness can echo into eternity. One touch of grace can awaken a heart that's been asleep for years. We are not just called to believe, we are called to love, to step into the silence and become the voice of hope. And this is not a task for the future, it is for now. The silence is present, the ache is current. The moment is upon us, so listen, do you hear it? In the stillness beyond the noise, her soul whispers for you. She is waiting, not for perfection, not for a hero, but for someone who cares enough to reach. God is calling you to be that someone. Don't wait for another to step in. Don't pass the burden to the next prayer meeting. The silence is sacred, the waiting is holy, and the beloved is hoping that you will be the one to answer. She's waiting for you to reach out. There is a sound that pierces through time. It is not a trumpet blast, yet it carries the urgency of heaven. It is not thunder, yet it shakes the soul. It is the sound of the prophetic cry, a voice not born of man, but ignited by the Spirit. A voice that has always risen in the moments when darkness grows bold and complacency deepens. This cry does not come from the palace or the stage. It comes from the wilderness. It comes from the hidden place. And it always comes with the same urgency. Wake up, reach out, the time is now. The prophetic cry is not for a future generation. It is not nostalgia for past revivals or distant outpourings. It is the cry of the present moment. And that cry is sounding now. She's waiting for you to reach out. She is not waiting for another program or a polished sermon. She is not looking for a perfect messenger. She is waiting for someone who carries the weight of the burden, someone who has heard the cry beneath the silence, the ache beneath the smile, the pain behind the mask. Throughout history, God has raised up prophets not simply to tell the future, but to awaken the present. Isaiah walked naked through the streets to shake a numb people. Jeremiah wept while others laughed. Hosea married unfaithfulness to show God's heart. John the Baptist emerged from the desert with wild eyes and a burning voice, crying, "Prepare the way." Why? Because the people had grown deaf to the whisper of God, because the beloved had wandered, because the bride had forgotten her groom, because someone had to feel what heaven feels and speak what heaven speaks. Today, that same prophetic burden rests not just on preachers and prophets, it rests on you. This is not about titles, it is about obedience. You may not stand in a pulpit, but your life is a platform. You may not have a microphone, but your love is a message. You may not be called to speak to nations, but you are absolutely called to speak to her, the one right in front of you, the forgotten, the unseen, the abandoned, the one lost in her past, drowning in shame, or simply drifting through a life of spiritual numbness. She may be a stranger or someone you've known for years. She may not even show signs of needing rescue, but in her soul there is a cry. And that cry has reached the ears of heaven, and now God sends you as a response. That's what the prophetic cry does. It awakens people to the assignment they didn't know they carried. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It burns through comfort and compels movement. It pushes past excuses and shatters apathy. It says, you have to move, you have to speak, you have to reach. But this cry is not always loud. Sometimes it is a whisper in your spirit that won't leave you alone. A burden for someone you can't explain, a nudge to send a message, a sense that you're meant to stop and ask, are you okay? That too is prophetic. That too is divine. Because prophecy is not just foretelling, it is forth-telling, speaking forth the heart of God into a moment that desperately needs Him. And here's the truth. If you don't reach her, maybe no one will. That is not to place fear on your shoulders, but responsibility in your spirit. God will always pursue the lost, but He often does it through His people, through the obedient, through the available, and right now He is sounding a cry in your spirit for her, not for the masses, but for the one. Because revival doesn't begin in stadiums. It begins in small moments of obedience. It begins when one person says, I will not walk past her. I will not ignore the tug. I will reach out. The prophetic cry is not about waiting for permission. It is the permission. It is the call that breaks your heart for what breaks His. It is the fire that says, I can't sit still while she suffers. It is the holy unrest that moves you toward her, not because you have all the answers, but because love compels you to move. The world may call it foolish. Heaven calls it faithful, and now the cry has reached you. It has found you in this very moment. The cry from the heart of God for His beloved. The cry from her soul, even if she hasn't spoken it aloud. Cry that says she's waiting for you to reach out. So what will you do? Will you walk away, or will you carry the burden? Will you ignore it, or will you step into it? Because heaven has spoken, and you are the answer wrapped in flesh. You are the cry answered with movement. You are the voice, the touch, the moment she's been waiting for. The prophetic cry has gone out. Let it burn in you, let it move you, let it break you, because the time is now. And she is waiting. There is a role given in Scripture that carries both honor and burden, both authority and responsibility. It is the role of the watchman. The prophet Ezekiel was told by God, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. The watchman was not the warrior, nor the king, nor the priest. The watchman stood on the wall. He looked out into the darkness. He listened while others slept. He was the first to see danger, the first to sound the alarm, the first to speak when no one else was paying attention. Today, we romanticize this role, but in truth, it was lonely. It was often thankless, but it was vital. Without the watchman, the people were blind to what was coming. Without the watchman, the city was vulnerable. Without the watchman, the beloved could be taken while no one noticed. And now, the mantle of the watchman falls not just on prophets or pastors, but on every believer, on you. You are not called to merely observe the world. You are not a passive participant in this hour of history. You are the one God has placed on the wall for your generation, for your community, for your family, and for her. She, the beloved soul, the broken heart, the one forgotten by others, is depending on you even if she doesn't know it. Because you are the watchman assigned to see what no one else sees, to feel the danger before it manifests, to intercede, to act, to speak when silence would be easier. This is not a role of superiority. It's a role of responsibility. The watchman doesn't climb the wall to look down on others. He climbs to see for others, to stand in the gap, to protect, to sound the cry of warning, of hope, of awakening. If the watchman sees trouble and does nothing, the blood is on his hands. But if he speaks, if he warns, if he reaches, he has fulfilled his charge, regardless of the outcome. And so we ask, have we forgotten our post? Have we abandoned the wall for comfort, for distraction, for the illusion that someone else will step in? While the world spirals in confusion and the hearts of men grow cold, too many believers have left their place. They have traded the night watch for entertainment. They have allowed the beloved to drift further into the shadows because the burden felt too heavy. But the Lord is calling you back. He is calling you to take your place again, to lift your eyes above the noise and see with spiritual clarity, to watch not with suspicion but with compassion, to guard not just your own soul, but the soul of another. The role of the watchman is not limited to warnings of judgment. It is also about recognizing the one who is fading, the one who is slipping through the cracks. She might not be in danger of war, but she is in danger of despair. She might not face an invading army, but she faces the slow erosion of hope, and she's waiting for someone to notice, waiting for the watchman to care. You don't need a prophetic dream to know who she is. You only need to be willing. God will show you. The Spirit will highlight her. You will find her in conversations you would have otherwise ignored, in a name that lingers in your spirit, in a moment that doesn't let you move on so quickly. These are not coincidences. They are watchman assignments, and when you respond, when you reach, when you speak, when you pray, you become a guardian of hope, a lifeline for the beloved, a voice that calls her back to life. This is not the time to grow weary. This is not the hour to abandon your post. Too much is at stake. The night is deepening, but so is the urgency of heaven. And there is still one more soul to reach, one more cry to answer, one more beloved waiting in silence for someone to see her, to care enough to act. That someone is you. You are her watchman. Take your place on the wall. Lift up your voice, reach out, for she is still waiting, and the Lord is still calling. You were not saved to be silent. You were not awakened to stay asleep. You were placed in this hour, in this generation, in her life, to be a light, a witness, a shield. Don't look around for another to fulfill the task. It is yours, and she is waiting for you to reach out. There is a truth, quiet but unshakable, that echoes through the chambers of eternity. Love was never meant to be passive. Real love moves. Real love reaches. Real love does not sit back in comfort while another soul suffers in silence. The God we serve is not a God who waited for us to find him. He came looking. He left heaven. He took on flesh. He crossed the distance. He bore the wounds. He endured the silence, because love does not wait behind a veil of indifference. Love acts. When Jesus walked the earth, he did not stay in synagogues waiting for people to come to him. He went to where they were. He sat with sinners. He touched lepers. He wept at tombs. He dined with the rejected and restored the forgotten. The Son of God walked dusty roads for the sake of one soul at a time. Not because they deserved it, but because love moves first. And now he has placed that love inside of you, not to be stored away in a safe place, but to be poured out, lived out, stretched out for the sake of another. The kingdom of God is not built on programs, but on people, on hearts that bleed with his compassion, on lives that are interrupted by the needs of others. Love, if it is true, must inconvenience us. It must cause us to stop, to notice, to feel, and then it must compel us to act, because someone is always waiting on the other side of your obedience. Someone's breakthrough, someone's restoration, someone's answered prayer is waiting for you to step out of yourself and into the life of another. She is waiting, not for pity but for presence, not for someone who feels sorry for her, but for someone who dares to love her where she is. She doesn't need your perfection. She needs your heart, your willingness to show up, to sit with her in the darkness, to offer a word, a prayer, a hand, a moment that reminds her, you are not invisible, you are not worthless, you are not forgotten. Love doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need a spotlight. It needs courage, the courage to risk rejection, the courage to look foolish in the eyes of the world, the courage to say, you matter enough for me to stop everything and see you. And this courage doesn't come from us, it comes from him, from the Spirit of the living God who lives within you, the same Spirit that moved Jesus to tears at Lazarus's tomb, the same Spirit that led him to the Samaritan woman when no one else would speak to her. That Spirit now breathes in you, waiting for your yes. The danger is not that we don't carrots, that we care too safely. We care in theory, in principle, from a distance, but love can't stay at arm's length. It must cross the gap. It must reach out even when the outcome is uncertain, even when we're not sure what to say, even when we fear we might not make a difference, because the truth is, you already are the difference. You carry the presence of Christ, you carry the fragrance of heaven, And the moment you step into someone's pain with the love of God, everything begins to shift. We cannot wait for her to come to us. We cannot sit in our churches or behind our screens hoping that maybe, somehow, she will find her way back. That is not how love works. That is not how the kingdom advances. The bridegroom came for the bride. He sought her, he gave all for her, and now he asks you to do the same for the ones he's placed in your path. Because what if she doesn't know she's loved? What if she's convinced that God has turned away? What if she's one act of compassion away from turning back? But that act depends on you. This is the cost of love. It is not cheap. It is not casual. It is not merely emotional. It is a daily surrender to be used by God. And when you say yes to that, yes to inconvenience, yes to risk, yes to reaching, He will lead you straight to the ones who need it most, to the lost, to the broken, to the waiting. She is waiting, not because she's weak, but because life has been heavy. Not because she's far from God, but because she's forgotten how close He really is. And your love, your courage to reach is the reminder she needs. Don't wait for another moment. Don't wait for a sign. You are the sign. You are the answer. You are the vessel. She's waiting for you to reach out, will you?